As an American settled in London, I'm still learning about how the government works in the UK, and even though I'm not an expert on US government, just a professional actor, when it comes to politics, I am definitely an enthusiast. I suppose you could call me a political actor. Right, there's the branding out of the way. Moving on. Anyway, the recent US elections have raised a lot of questions among my British friends. I think folks are particularly confused about how the US elects the president and the whole notion of the Electoral College. They might also want to know more about impeachment. But before we can get into all of that, I think we need an introduction first to the fundamental structure of the United States government. There are a lot of similarities between the governments of the UK and the US, so bear with me as I also describe the UK system for my own clarity. The first difference I'll point out is each country's constitution. Now, the UK doesn't actually have a single codified constitution, but instead operates according to a series of conventions and customs, as well as some constitutional principles established in common law and parliamentary statutes, all of which is supplemented by non-legally binding works, such as the Magna Carta, which incidentally is largely repealed, turns out, but is obviously still profoundly influential. The United States, on the other hand, does have an explicit foundation document, the U.S. Constitution, which lays out how the federal government is structured and meant to be administered. All laws and procedures in the U.S. have to be consistent with the U.S. Constitution, which establishes the supreme authority of the federal government of the United States. Now, that's worth mentioning since each of the 50 states have their own respective state governments with their own constitutions. And within each state, there is at least one other level of local, city, county, or municipal government, depending on where you live. The U.S. Constitution establishes 3 separate but equal branches of government and iterates how these branches are meant to interact with one another. These branches are the legislative branch, consisting of Congress, which makes laws, the executive branch, at the top of which is the president, which executes laws, and the judicial branch, the network of courts that leads up to the Supreme Court, which adjudicates laws. The government is designed around the principle of separation of powers, in which specific functions of government are assigned to each of the 3 branches, so that power is divided, and no single branch or aspect of government can take over and run the whole country without the other 2 branches. The Constitution also makes it possible for any single branch of the government to restrain the other branches from exerting too much power. This is the Constitution's system of checks and balances. I'll elaborate on that in my upcoming videos, which will compare the US federal government to the national government of the UK, which also has legislative, executive, and judicial branches. Next time, we'll compare the legislatures of the UK and the US. See you then.